It's a rainy kind of a day. Raining in Arizona. It's not often, but we sure do appreciate it when it happens. So it's like mid-40s outside. I don't feel like playing in the rain. It's a little cool for that. So today I'm going to be in the garage. And so now that I've dug out the laser down there, all I did was just made a easy snowman. The red lines on the outside are cut lines. The blue lines that you can barely see, but they're the buttons, the nose, the mouth, the eyes, all that. The blue lines are engraved lines, but they're in a straight, or they're in a line following the outline. And then the black is what you think of as regular engraving. So that basically just changes the color. Putting the blue around the other stuff makes it stand out a little bit better. And I don't necessarily want the writing to stand out a lot. It's just a reminder of who they're from and what year it was. Memento kind of an ornament. Something you can hang up anywhere, it doesn't matter. It's got the loop in it so you can put a string around it or whatever. This is something that's quick and easy to make. You can make it for friends or family. You can custom make them for anybody who happens to want something like this. They're fairly quick, they're fairly easy, and they're fairly inexpensive. I don't want to make this a tutorial channel. The channel itself, I don't want it to be a tutorial. It's just kind of keeping up with what's going on. Mainly for people that have any interest at all. Now, if you want to see something about, something more in-depth, how I make these things happen, let me know. I can take and show you. This is just in Inkscape. It's what they call a vector graphics tool. You can take any picture, you can make it into anything that you want. It's all a matter of how much time and effort you want to put into it and how much you want to learn. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take and engrave this into Baltic birch. The reason I use Baltic birch is because it's very light colored. It's very good for engraving. And for small ornaments like this, it's perfect. Now I can also take and put this onto any other kind of wood that I want to put it on. So if I wanted to take a piece of maple or something like that, I can take and put it in here. I can run it through, and then with the with the cutting line, the red line being deeper, I can take it over to my other woodworking tools. I can cut out the outline, make it a nice clean edge, and it can actually be a little bit heavier of an ornament instead of being on a very thin piece of plywood, of Baltic birch. Alright, I decided to touch on a couple little things here, just in case anyone's interested on exactly how easy this is once you get to learn it. The problem is the learning curve, but if you go in and you play with stuff, you figure it out pretty quick and easy. I have this design. Now what I want to do is I want to click on it, just so that... Alright. So what I do is I select the whole thing, just like that. And then up at the top are these size boxes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make it 4 inches high. That's how tall I want it. I clicked the lock so that it'll maintain its dimensions. I click that, everything shrinks down to the size that I want. Now I keep that open like that, and I go over to File, I open up Document Properties. They hide off to the side here, you just drag them out. This is normally what you see. It's just like this. You go to Custom Size to resize Page to Content. You click that, open it up, resize to Drawing. Okay, you notice that brings it to that size. That way everything is nice and easy to track. Now that I've got that made, all I need to do is save it as something that I'm going to remember, which in this case, I've already got a folder named Christmas. I'm just going to go ahead and save it as for Snowman 23. And all that's telling me is 4 inches high. It's a snowman and it's 2023. I like to simplify things. Memory's not what it once was. Okay, now that I've got that saved as a file, I open up my K40 Whisperer because it's a free program. It's a very inexpensive laser, CNC laser. They're called a K40. Yes, they're from China. It's a CO2 laser, which means that it will affect organic matter. You can't use it on metal unless you want to clean something off of it. If you paint it or you powder coat it or something like that, the laser will take the material off of the metal, but it'll leave the metal. If you dig really hard, it might affect aluminum or something like that, but not much. So now I go into Open Design File, and I go into my laser, which, of course, not as easy as it once was. Christmas, for Snowman 23, it opens it up within the program. So now that it's in K40 Whisper, what I do is I turn on, here, I'm going to move you. Hang on a second. Okay, so what I'm going to do, this is the Baltic Birch, this is a scrap piece, this is what I do for testing. Turn on the laser engraver, and then you go up to the upper left corner where it says Initialize Laser Cutter, and it's not going to do anything because I don't have the USB connected because I just moved it here. I'll be back. So once everything is hooked up right, the next step is to turn on the laser cutter, and then in the upper left hand corner, you heard the computer connect. In the upper left hand corner is a Initialize Laser Cutter. You click that, the laser cutter reacts to it. Inside, now I've added this is for the air. I have air that blows across it so it doesn't start on fire. So in the interest of wasting as little material as possible, I took and put the wood in, slid it all the way forward, jog stepped the rack all the way back. Here, let me bring you up so you can look in here. Hey look, I'm stepping on stuff. Weird. Okay, so here's the inside of the laser. The actual laser itself comes out here. No, I'm not going to stick my finger underneath there. I've been hit by that before. It's not fun. Up on, I'm going to loosen you up so I can wiggle you around a bit. Up on the program up here, you can see the arrows on the left hand side. That is to jog. So what you do is you click the lower left hand corner. It takes you down to the lowest leftmost point, and then you can use, which is down there, and then you can use the buttons. There's a laser test button, and as you can see, hopefully, it's going to fire right in the corner. Okay, and what that does is it tells me that it's actually hitting the wood, which is good. We go all the way up to the top, and what we're going to do is we're going to start, this gives you a lot of options, but in the lower left hand corner you can see that it's got raster engrave, vector engrave, and vector cut. Raster engrave is like a printer. Vector engrave follows lines, those are the blue, and then the red is the vector cut, and that's where you chop off your wood and cut it out to what you want. Now, because of the fact that I haven't used this in a long time, I'm quite certain that my mirrors are very dirty. So that's part of the reason why I'm doing this test. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take and go ahead and run this, and we're going to see how it turns out, and then we're going to adjust as we need to from there. Now you notice that silver tube that goes all the way up to that fan up there. When I plug that fan in, it's going to start making noise, but it's also going to start sucking smoke out of the laser cutter. Cue the noise. Also, the next step is to turn on the air. The reason I use the air is it provides a cleaner cut. It also provides a cleaner raster, and it prevents fire, or it reduces the amount of fires that you end up with. So I'm going to go ahead and get the air set up here. I have two different settings. I have one on my compressor, I have one on the laser. And then what I do, I listen for that to start. Now I'm only going to show you the very beginning here, and then I'll pause it. I'm going to leave it at 9 for raster. Oh, hey, there's one other thing I forgot to show you. Turn off that air. I have a hole in the bottom. This all sits on a jack. And what I do is when I'm raster engraving, I lower it, and that gives me a darker engraving. Let's see how it goes. Now remember, this is only for the stuff that's colored black. Alright, so there is the raster engraving complete. Next is going to be the vector engraving, so I'm outlining everything that you see right now. I need to raise it up. You're going to see over in the left hand corner here that the table comes up to the bottom side of that leather I got in there. That's how I know exactly where it's at. A laser starts off fairly wide. It goes through a lens. It brings it down to a point. That point is an extremely small space, and then it widens out after that. That's why dropping the table down creates a darker engraving, raster engraving, than leaving it up. Now since I want a fine point for going around everything, I brought it back up again so it'd be more of a point where it touches. Now let's see. I'm going to reduce the power just a little bit, and then we're going to see how the vector engraving goes. And you notice the smoke goes out thanks to the fan sucking everything out the back side. Okay, and there the vector engraving is done. Now we have one more step, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to increase the power. This is the power over here. I did 9 for the raster engrave. I took it down to 8 for the vector engrave. Now I'm going to take it up to 15. Now let's see if we can get a cut going. I have to crank up the compressor so that we can get a little more air going, and then I need to start the cut. So we'll see how it goes here. Off we go. Now I could see that it did not go all the way through in some of these areas. Oh, well, I was mistaken. It did. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is pop that out, and then I can take a look at it and see what I think. There we go. Just like that, we have a Christmas tree ornament. Completely custom. I'll do a little bit of touch up to get rid of that color around it. You notice that the edges are nicely blackened. And the back is just the back, don't care. So there we go. So that's another one of the things that I do. Laser's kind of fun. The best part is if you're doing any kind of a real project, this was using scrap wood to try and relearn how to use it. I haven't used it in a long time. Got a whole bunch of equipment for it. Started off as a really inexpensive laser. It's not designed for this. This is something that people wrote software to make it work. So it takes a little bit of experimentation to get it to as nice as you want it to be. But it's really fun to do. And the best part is I can leave it run while I'm doing other things normally. When I'm doing it like this, where I'm using little pieces of scrap wood and it only takes a minute to make each piece, I don't get anything else accomplished. But if I can take, and if I've got a whole bunch of stuff that I'm making, I can put in one sheet. I've got I use Inkscape for the design. If I put a bunch of different things onto one page that's the size of the piece of wood that this can cut, which is about the size of a piece of paper, then I can let it sit and run. I do pictures, I do acrylic, I do boxes. I designed this box. You can see it's got the poker hands on the front, and it just holds a couple of decks of cards. Boy, that was good. Let's see here. Let's try that again. It holds a couple of decks of cards, and it's got the poker hands on the front of it. This was done before I got very good at raster engraving, so it's not very dark, but it's got quite a bit of cut into it. So as you learn, you can constantly make it a little bit better. But this looks pretty nice for what it is. I can always make more of those because I've got the design saved. I've got the design saved for a lot of different things, including a whole bunch of acrylic stuff that I've made. Some of that stuff is, here, let me move this out of the way. Some of that stuff is like this, and I know you can't see it real well, but this is designed to go into a base. This base, I'm going to pull that one out of there, and I'll bring you in closer. But this base is an LED lighted base. Let's see how this looks, shall we? Ah, you're moving. Okay. So when that's lit, it looks pretty nice. And I make a lot of different designs. So this one's got a 3D heart and a rose. It's very Valentine-ish, imagine that. But there's a lot of different designs you can do. Here's one that's more of a standard engraving. Like I say, this stuff was, I had some customers in a past life. And so a lot of the stuff was custom made for them. But you can make some pretty nice stuff, you know, once you get to learning how to do it. And different depths of engraving changes the effect. So if you go lighter than dark black, you can change the depth of the cut, and that, okay, hi. By changing the depth of the cut, you can change how much light it gets. And also, if you go shallower at the bottom and deeper at the top, you can get it to light evenly all the way across. If it's lighting from the bottom and you got deep cuts in the bottom, the top kind of fades. So with experimentation, you can make it better. This is one of the things that interests me. So I do a lot of different things. That's another one. If you like what I do, feel free to subscribe. If you like the video, feel free to like. If you think somebody else will like what I'm doing, by all means share. I enjoy doing this. I enjoy sharing this. I enjoy talking, in case you haven't noticed. Feel free to help me in my goals to talk and share this with people. And we'll see how it goes. It could be good.